In today's world, Craigslist has become a popular platform for buying, selling, and exchanging goods. However, besides attractive bargains, there are also scary stories that users cannot expect. Seemingly normal encounters can lead to horrifying experiences when trust is exploited and fears become real. Let's explore 4 scary stories from Craigslist, where good things can hide dark secrets. Story 1: The Battle with Fear. In the summer of 2012, I was 15 years old, while all my friends were 16 and working summer jobs. So finding a job suitable for my age became very difficult. After much effort, I decided to look for work through Craigslist, hoping to find a temporary job. One day I spotted an ad looking for a house cleaner for $10 per hour. The ad comes with 2 photos. One is of the front of the house and the other is of the inside of the house. The house looked like a typical middle-class home, and the person who posted the ad lived in the next town over. The ad asked for email contact, so I sent an email to the landlord, explaining that I was 15 years old and would be happy to work for that salary. After about 10 minutes, I received a response from a man named James. He informed me of his schedule and asked me when to arrive. I confirmed, and James asked if I had transportation to get there every day. I immediately realized that my mom wouldn't be able to drive me every day, but James offered to pick me up since he worked nearby. I agreed immediately without asking my mother. James asked me for my home address. After I sent the information, he informed me that he would pick me up at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. Right on time, I waited outside and saw James driving a black Nissan Maxima. He was wearing a Mets hat, had a black beard, and didn't appear to be getting ready for work. Although this seems unusual, I don't mind it. James introduced himself, gave me the house key, and told me to just clean everything up. Then he quickly left. His trust in a 15-year-old child like me made me feel strange, but I didn't think much of it. Entering the house, I realized that the cleaning job was not too difficult. The house is not messy. Just fold some clothes, wash a few dishes, and use a handheld vacuum cleaner to clean some carpets. However, the house is extremely hot, much hotter than outside. All the windows were sealed, and I didn't dare turn on the air conditioner because I didn't have permission. During 6 hours of work, I struggled with the extreme heat in the house. Finally, James came back, gave me $60, and took me home. He seemed very nice, and I felt lucky to have found this job. My mother agreed to this because James always paid me in full. However, one Friday night, when I woke up feeling thirsty, I looked out the window and saw a person standing outside, staring into my room. I screamed in panic, causing my parents to run over, but the stranger had disappeared before they arrived. The next day, it was hotter than usual, with temperatures at least 100 degrees F. I asked James if I could turn on the air conditioning, but he replied that the air conditioner was broken and advised me to just take off my pants. Shirt if you feel hot. I thought he was joking, but then I realized he was serious. One day, James announced that he was taking the day off and would just help me clean up. I feel uncomfortable with this because I would rather work alone. Even so, James still followed me closely while I worked. When I entered the bathroom, I discovered a small camera mounted on the corner of the wall, almost invisible. I continued checking and discovered another camera in the bottom corner of the bathroom. When I checked under the sink, I discovered a giant stack of VHS tapes, including one labeled with my name. This discovery made me feel so disgusted and frightened that I almost vomited. The tapes contained not only images of house cleaning but also scary videos and footage of other children. I couldn't believe what I saw. Feeling desperate and scared, I decided to leave the house immediately. I asked James to take me home early, saying I didn't feel well. He agreed, but as we left the house, I noticed that the path he took me on was completely opposite from my own. I felt nervous when I noticed the unfamiliar road, and as James drove, I asked him for directions. James became angry and asked me about what I was doing in the bathroom. The feeling of fear increased, and when I stopped at the traffic light, I took the opportunity to open the car door and run away. I ran home, called my mother and cried, asking her to come pick me up immediately. My mother called the police immediately, and they found the tapes under the sink. The tapes contained extremely disturbing images and videos of children, some of whom are still missing to this day. James was arrested and convicted for child crimes, kidnapping, and more. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief, knowing that I was out of his hands, and had no idea where he would have taken me if I hadn't jumped out of the car in time. Story 2: Meeting in the Dark Night. About 3 months ago, my roommate and I decided to look into buying a used couch. Craigslist seems like the perfect place to find used furniture at reasonable prices. After scrolling through a bunch of for sale listings, I spotted a black leather couch. It looked in great shape, with no scratches or damage, and the price was only $200, a surprisingly low number. I should have been more cautious when I saw this bargain, but my desire to get the item overshadowed the warning signs in my mind. After contacting the seller via email, he and I quickly agreed on the price. He asked me to come to his home to complete the transaction. Because my roommate was busy with part-time work, I had to go get the chair myself. The address he sent me was located in a remote area, far from the town center, surrounded by dense forest. As soon as I drove through the narrow path leading to the house, an uneasy feeling crept into my heart. The house gradually appeared, small and isolated in the middle of wild nature. It was an old, dark wooden house, as if it belonged to another era. I stepped out of the car, feeling the stuffy and quiet atmosphere. As I approached the door, I realized that this house was completely different from what I had imagined. It was much smaller, and the wooden panels were faded and rotten, giving it a gloomy appearance, as if the house had been long forgotten. There were no signs of life around. There were no birds singing, no wind blowing through the leaves, just dead silence. I knocked on the door 3 times. Each knock rang out clearly, echoing off the thin walls of the house. Inside, I heard the sound of the wooden floor creaking, as if someone was walking gently, deliberately tiptoeing so as not to make any noise. I stood waiting, my heart beating loudly in my chest, when a weak, muffled voice rang out from behind the closed door. That voice seemed to come from a faraway place, unclear, but carrying a feeling of haste and urgency. That feeling sent chills down my spine, but I couldn't leave. Following the voice's instructions, I was told that the couch was being placed at the back of the house. My curiosity and desire to complete the transaction overcame my fear. I decided to follow the instructions. When I walked around the back of the house, the scene that met my eyes made me so shocked and stunned that my legs felt like they were about to collapse. In the empty lot behind the house, I saw a group of men standing in a circle, all wearing long black robes, covering their bodies. They stood silently, motionless, hands clasped in front of their chests, faces hidden in the darkness of their hoods. In the center of the circle, there was a large hole, covered by an old wooden trapdoor and chains wrapped around it. Those chains, which seemed to have been used many times, left scratches on the wood, like a trace of bad things that had happened here. At that moment, a panic broke out in me. Before I realized what was happening, I turned around and ran towards the car. My hands shook as I tried to fit the key into the lock. As I frantically tried to start the car, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the front door of the house swing open, as if someone had just rushed out with terrible force. From the darkness, one of the men wearing a black cloak stepped out, his eyes staring after me, cold and emotionless. I had only one thought left in my mind: escape. I stepped on the gas pedal and drove the car as fast as I could. My heart was pounding, my body was shaking nonstop, but I didn't dare stop, didn't dare look back. I just knew that I needed to get away from that place, as far away as possible. Once I was safely on the main road, the fear gradually turned into a feeling of horror as I realized something. In all the email exchanges, I never told the seller that I had a roommate, but he knows. He knows about the existence of someone I never mentioned, and that, more than anything else, haunts me to no end. Every time I think about it, a shiver runs down my spine, as if I'm still being watched, not yet truly out of the terrible trap I almost fell into that day. Story 3: Meeting in the Dark Night. I was about 12 years old at the time, and in the process of preparing for Christmas by buying cheap craft materials. Since craft stores are often very expensive, my 27-year-old sister and I decided to search Craigslist for more affordable items. After some searching, we found someone selling a big bag of handmade items for just $10, nearly $90 off the original price. It was an unbelievable price, and since the seller lived relatively close by, we quickly contacted him via email. Within an hour of sending the email, he replied and asked where we wanted to meet to discuss. Thinking it would be safer to meet in a public place, I suggested meeting at my local Dollar Tree store, which was a short walk from where I lived. However, the strange thing was that he asked to meet directly at my house. I live in an apartment, and that would be inconvenient and dangerous, so I tactfully declined. He continued to offer to drive to meet me, but I still refused. Finally, he agreed to meet me at the Dollar Tree store, but asked for the meeting to take place at 9 p.m. Even though I was a little worried because it was already dark, I still accepted it and reassured myself that everything would be okay. That night, my sister had to work the night shift, so she gave me $10 and told me to walk there, bringing a cart to easily transport the large craft bag home. I started walking at 8:30 p.m. on a deserted road, only illuminated by flickering street lights. Feeling lonely and cold surrounded me, but I was determined to complete the task. When I arrived, I saw a silver Kia parked on the corner. I believe it was the seller, because he described his car via email. I approached, waved, and called out, but instead of seeing the handmade bag I expected, I only saw a man coming out of the car, empty-handed. He smiled faintly, his eyes were cold, and said that he had left his bag at home. A cold chill ran down my spine when he asked me to get in the car to go to his house to get my bag. The feeling of insecurity arose strongly, but I tried to stay calm and refused, citing that my family did not allow it. He was more patient, offering to drive me home after getting my bag, but I still refused. His eyes changed, becoming colder and more dangerous, when he said that if I agreed to go with him, he would give me the bag for free. As I was about to leave, he suddenly clearly stated my home address, an address I had never shared with him. My heart was beating so hard, my blood seemed to freeze in my veins. I understood that I was facing a truly dangerous person. Without hesitation, I turned around and ran, my legs feeling like they were about to collapse from fear. I ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back, just knowing I had to run as fast as possible. When I got home, I rushed up the stairs, as if a demon was chasing me. Once inside the apartment, I locked the door and windows, quickly covered every window with black clothes to shield myself. My whole body trembled non-stop. Every breath was heavy and painful. In a panic, I sat huddled under the sink cabinet, trying to keep absolutely silent. But then, terrible sounds began to ring out. I heard heavy footsteps, slowly approaching my apartment door. This is even more scary, because there is no one in the building with such a large physique, especially at this hour. The footsteps stopped right in front of my house, and I heard his creepy voice, softly calling my name, inviting me to come out to receive the bag he had brought. I couldn't breathe. It felt like the blood in my body had stopped flowing. My body was shaking. Through the gap in the door, I saw his back, standing silently in front of my house. He was wearing a black shirt. He looked like a ghost, an entity that did not belong to this world. His hand slowly reached for the doorknob, trying to turn it, but failed. When he couldn't open the door, he started using his strength to kick the door. Every kick made me almost faint from fear. The door shook violently under his strength, until it burst open with a noise that echoed throughout the hallway. In a panic, I grabbed an old broom from the closet and prepared for the worst. But before he could rush in, the loud noise woke up my neighbors. They ran up, holding baseball bats, and without hesitation, hit him hard on the head. The person collapsed to the floor, blood flowing from the wound on his head, but I still couldn't escape this nightmare. He tried to stand up, his eyes filled with hatred, and before he could grab me, I jumped down the stairs and ran out, not daring to look back. I ran like crazy, as if every last breath was being taken away, as if death was near. When I arrived at my sister's workplace, I almost collapsed. I rushed into the room, sobbing, unable to say a word. The nurses there looked at me, terrified and worried, as if I had just escaped something terrible they could not imagine. I couldn't stop shaking, I couldn't stop crying, I couldn't forget the eyes and voice of the person who tried to kill me. The police were called, and after investigating, they discovered the person was a serial rapist, someone I was lucky to narrowly escape. After that night, my life changed forever. My sister decided to move away and continue her studies in another city, and I could never forget the horror I experienced that night. Those terrifying sounds, images, and feelings still haunt me, following me in my dreams, making me always feel like I'm still being watched, hunted, never truly safe again. Story 4: The Cursed Mustang. I'm 20 years old and still driving the old Buick that my grandfather left behind. This car is not only unaesthetic but also feels old and outdated, making me want to look for a newer, cooler car that suits my youth and style. With the money accumulated from work, I decided to look for a Mustang, a symbol of freedom and strength. I spent weeks surfing Craigslist, hoping to find a bargain. Finally, I found an incredibly attractive posting, a blue 2013 Mustang GT convertible, manual transmission, no accident history, with only 32,000 miles. And the price? Only $16,000, too cheap compared to the market. This post just went up 4 minutes ago, and I knew I had to act now. I quickly called the phone number listed, but only received voicemail. I called again, and after 4 rings, a man answered. His voice sounded cheerful, even friendly, when I expressed my interest in the car. He joked that the car had just been posted a few minutes ago, and he actually seemed very normal, even nice. He gave me an address to come see the car, and I immediately made plans to meet him at 6 p.m. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't hide my excitement. A great Mustang is waiting for me, and I'm ready to make my dream come true. Just drive an hour from the suburbs to the address provided. I didn't hesitate, jumped into my old Buick, and started my journey with GPS as my guide. But with just 2 minutes to go, I started to feel confused. The area I was driving through was rural and poor, the exact opposite of what I expected from a place where such a Mustang could be owned. Finally, the GPS led me to the front of an old, shabby house. There was no sign of a Mustang in sight. Anxiety began to creep up inside me as I sat in the car, staring at the house for a few minutes, wondering if I should get out and knock on the door. An hour's drive wasn't short, but everything about this house made me uneasy. I hesitated, but then saw the window curtains in the house begin to move, and then the front door opened. A man in his 50s walked out, waved and smiled at me. He looked completely normal, with a gentle, friendly expression. After turning off the engine, I got out of the car and greeted him. When I asked about the car, he smiled and said it was in the garage, inviting me to follow him inside to see it. I felt something was wrong, but couldn't find a good reason to refuse, so I decided to follow him inside. The house smelled disgusting, like something had rotted a long time ago. The interior is almost empty, with only a few old, dusty items. He led me down a small staircase towards a hidden door. As I walked down the stairs, a strange noise coming from behind the door made me shiver. He explained lightly that it was his friend who was repairing the car. But then I heard a creaking sound from upstairs again, as if someone was moving above. He looked up, forced a smile and said it was his wife, but the hasty way he explained made me feel uncomfortable. When he opened the last door, I expected to see the Mustang, but the garage was completely empty. No cars, nothing but a dark, musty space. I turned to look at him, and in that moment, his eyes changed. It no longer seems friendly, but becomes dark and dangerous. I understand that I made a serious mistake. Without a word, I turned and ran toward the front door. But when I arrived, someone was blocking the door. My heart raced as I saw him holding a sharp metal tool in his hand, something I didn't know the name of, but looked terrifying. He walked towards me, and I had no choice but to run in the opposite direction. Luckily, I found the back door and rushed out. I ran out into the backyard, around the house, and toward my Buick. When I got in the car and started the engine, I looked back at the house again. No one chased me, but I saw the front door open, and two men stood behind the storm door, just silently staring at me. Fear and anger flared up inside me, but I didn't dare stop. I drove like crazy, only stopping when I felt I was safe. Then I dared to call the police. I stayed nearby, waiting until I saw the police car pull up to the house. But when they went to check, there was no one left in the house. According to the investigation, the house had been abandoned many years ago, and no one actually lived there. I returned home feeling both angry and confused, but also grateful to have escaped that horrific situation. That night, at around 2 a.m., I received a call from an unfamiliar number. A feeling of fear immediately filled my heart. I didn't answer, and the caller didn't leave a message. But just 10 seconds later, I received a text from the same number, "Look out your window." My heart stopped beating when I read those words. I pulled down the curtain, not daring to imagine what was waiting on the other side. I called the police again, reporting that someone was lurking outside my house. Within just 3 minutes, police arrived and began searching the surrounding area. And then they found him, the man I'd met at the other house, hiding in the bushes right outside my window. He was arrested immediately, and his name was Tony. It turned out that he was a dangerous man, with a record of assaults and kidnappings. I was lucky to escape him that night, but the memory of the incident still haunts me. I understand that I narrowly escaped death, and the biggest lesson I learned is to never trust things that are too good to be true on sites like Craigslist. The above stories are just a small part of the countless macabre pieces that Craigslist can offer. We are often easily attracted by bargains and opportunities, but always remember that sometimes what is too good to be true can hide terrible things. Be careful and always keep yourself safe in every shopping decision. These experiences are reminders that, in the modern world, fear can come from the most unexpected places.